It's easy to get yourself financially in debt when you are paying it. You're paying it off and you're thinking, oh, I'll just pay it off when this money comes in from taxes. In about 2009, the mortgage payments on our home were, I realized that he wasn't making those payments as well. And our house was in trouble. I wanted to know what my other options were, though, before I just filed bankruptcy. I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do and how I was going to manage keeping my home and trying to pay off this debt and send my son off to college. And it was challenging. I'm from Monroe, Michigan, and Monroe's a little town in the most southern part of Michigan, right along the border of Toledo, Ohio, and about 40 minutes from Detroit. I have 2 kids. My son is 22, and my daughter is 18. My son and his fiance and my grandson all live with me right now. They just moved back in recently. I'm a cardiac stress tech. I work at the local hospital here in town, and I also work as a fitness instructor and a yoga instructor at 2 different gyms in Monroe. Probably like 2008, maybe around there. It was a couple years before my divorce. Things were getting kind of rocky. Financially, mostly it was credit card debt. When I realized that we were in such a large amount of debt, I thought, we got to do something. I was getting a lot of 0% interest rate cards in the mail, so I thought, his interest rate on his credit card was massive. I think it was like 20-some%. And I said, let's put it on one of my 0% cards. I think I had a total of like 6 to 8 credit cards, something like that. And things were starting to get harder because it wasn't as easy to switch the credit cards around. A lot of times what I would do is just to play catch up is take and put one credit card on to another 0% interest rate card. I think a lot of people, if you charge stuff, you'd play that kind of game where you take money from one card and put it on another and, open another one and close another one. And it just became it became more challenging to pay them off. In 2009, I started realizing that the house was in trouble too. The house was in foreclosure. I didn't want to lose my house. It was my kids' home. It was where they grew up, not only just the finance part of things, but our home. And things just were getting worse. And we ended up getting divorced. In 2010, everything was finalized. I called GreenPath and I reached Bettina. I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do and how I was going to manage keeping my home and trying to pay off this debt and send my son off to college. And it was challenging.
When I first met Tanya and she came to the office, I knew she'd be a successful client. She just had that positive outlook. She knew what she wanted to do. She just needed somebody to help her, and GreenPath was the place to come to help to get this debt paid off.
In November of 2010, I signed on with my debt management plan with Bettina through GreenPath. And, it was challenging at first, but once I got my finances under control and things started going through, it was a lot easier than I thought. The interest rates were lowered immediately on all of the credit cards that I had. So that was a huge relief to see that.
Tanya's situation was very typical of what we see. Single mom came in with debt, unfortunately put a lot of debt in their name if they had better credit than their ex-spouse, and the debt was their responsibility.
During the debt management plan, I realized I had to cut corners. You always want nice things for your kids, and my kids are no different than anyone else's. They want things and you want to give them things. But I knew that I couldn't use my credit cards during that time, and I had to be very diligent in how I spent my money. I was very careful with my budget not to go over, and if there was something that they needed or they wanted that was a necessity, I would try my best to get it. And if I couldn't, it would be one of those things that you either have to wait, until it's a birthday or a Christmas or something, or until we have the money for it. On July 28th of 2012, I was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer. In September, I had a total mastectomy. I was diagnosed with stage 1 cancer in the left side, and they also found from an MRI breast cancer on my right side. I went through chemo until January of 2013. I continued on the DMP program through GreenPath throughout my whole cancer and through my treatments. If I had not already been on the DMP plan through GreenPath when I was diagnosed, I really don't know how I would have been able to financially continue.
It was a really exciting time. In August of 2013, we gave her a call to let her know her last deposit was through GreenPath so that all of her debt would be paid in full. And at the same time, she actually got a clean bill of health from her doctors to say that she was in remission with her cancer. So what a great month for her.
I was really excited that I was done with all of the bills and all of the debt. And I also, was finished with all of my treatments, and it was a big relief off of my shoulder to be done with all of that. I feel great. I feel healthy. I feel well, and it's really good feeling to be out of the debt and to not have that weighing on my shoulders. I have 2 great children, a grandson and a daughter-in-law.
And an interesting thing was that Tanya and I had known each other from before I had gone to one of her yoga classes, and she helped me through the yoga class, and I felt good that I could help her through her debt situation.
Fill your